when we have a sales operations meeting, it's not just sales operations, it's actually pretty much all of our go-to-market functions.
Good, perfect. So just sort of starters, please, would you be so kind as to tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got into what you're doing now and where you started and your story, basically?
So I started in SaaS as an inbound SDR, qualifying leads, and then eventually was more and more engaged in the sales process and eventually got to close some of them, although I was really upfront with the fact that I did not want to become an outside sales rep. I did not want to go travel around visiting people and selling stuff.
I feel that.
I don't like doing prospecting, or like I'm okay with coaching somebody who wants to talk to me like through this thing, but I'm not about like contacting complete strangers.
Yeah,
It
no,
makes my
no.
heart go to my feet. So
Yeah, no.
do it, but,
Honestly,
like,
you're preaching to the choir. Is that the right one? Congregation?
yeah.
Not sure. You are. So yeah, I get
Um,
that.
so was very open about that's not where I wanted my career to go. I thought maybe could do marketing, or I don't know. And it turns out like where I was at, they had no processes. It was all just like the Wild West. They're like, okay, you're an inbound SDR. Here's 5 reps. Figure out how to work with all of them in their own special ways. And I went, no, that's not a thing. That's not going to be a thing. Like, I'm not going to pass some on at some stages for some people and some on at another. Like that is totally unscalable, unreasonable. And I am fairly intelligent, but I'm not going to remember all of your very particular needs. And what if you hire more? No, that's not going to happen. So I started making sales processes and refining our stages and what does a qualified lead mean. And it's just something that turns out I have a fairly good knack for. And so then went on and processized as much as I could, like our sales department, and then eventually branched out into doing like services processes and our customer engagements and just like overall company processes between, dev and sales and finance and marketing, and got to where I am today because we used HubSpot as a CRM. And I have been using HubSpot as a CRM, like as a paid CRM, since they rolled out those paid features. So I've been doing it about as long as you can do it on the sales side. And this company I'm at now, Muck Rack, they use HubSpot, and they actually found me on my LinkedIn profile because I had some certifications up there, and they're like, actually, we're looking for this. And I went, okay, great. So I joined Muck Rack and I've been happily here for almost 2 years, and I work across the SDR. We didn't have an SDR program when I started. We do now. The sales team has grown from, I don't know, we probably doubled the sales fleet at least, and the account executives, we have a team of I think 12 now, and we started with 3.
Wow.
So
Gosh, in 2 years have you been there? Wow.
Yeah, and we've grown about 60% year over year each year. We're on pace to do that again this year. So
amazing.
And it's all self-funded, no venture capital money. So it's not like insane growth. It's reasonable, sustained, like actual demand-based organic growth. So it's really exciting, cool place to be. And looking now to scale the sales operations team from a department of 1 to hopefully I'm trying to split my job into 3.
That is a lot of operations for one brain, no matter how good you may be. It's a lot.
Yeah.
That is a lot. Wow, that's seriously phenomenal growth for an unfunded SaaS. That's amazing. So what do you guys, what is it that you do exactly at Muck Rack?
We are a software tool for, I'm really bad at the elevator pitch, by the way.
It's fine. It's fine. I'm not
For
trying to buy it. It's fine.
PR pros, like we've branded ourselves a PRM, so like a
Okay.
CRM, but for PR
Mhm.
pros.
Oh, I love
So
that.
it's the contact management system, but it also comes with the contacts. Like
Mhm.
we're also a database of journalists, and we pull in from Twitter and other social feeds, like what journalists are writing about. We have all of their articles and bylines on their profiles so that when you go in and you say, all right, I need to pitch a story to somebody who writes specifically about pharma tech in the Dallas market,
Mhm.
you can find that person. So
Amazing.
instead of just like spraying and praying with your PR pitches, like we help you be much more targeted and
Mhm.
work smarter, not harder.
Mhm. I love that. I love that idea. That was well pitched. You do yourself down. That was good.
I think
So what do you think in your sort of 2 years of being there has been your most challenging thing to overcome, would you say?
um, from a process standpoint, when I started, they had kind of thought about segmenting out the sales team and the account management team. And it's still something that we're kind of not struggling with, but adjusting
Mhm.
based off of, new and updated information. Like we had separated out into SMB, mid market, and enterprise sales teams. And ended up doing the same thing on the account management side. And it turns out that, yes, our SMB sales, which we knew were totally different, very transactional, can happen over email very quickly, like 1 day turnaround sometimes.
Mhm.
Um, and that mid market and enterprise sales, we thought were going to be significantly different, like take a lot longer. But it turns out it only took, if our average deal if the deal velocity was like a month and a half, maybe in the SMB, then it was only 3 months, maybe on
Mhm.
the enterprise side, which isn't really a true enterprise type deal relationship. And it didn't take significantly more effort. There weren't significantly more contacts associated with those deals. So it's not like you went from working a 3-person deal to a 20-person deal.
Mhm.
You went from working a 3-person deal to like a 5-person deal. So
Mm.
the skill sets needed to really do those were not that different. So right now we're actually in the middle of preparing to undo the mid-market and enterprise on the sales side, but
Mhm.
keep the split on the account management side.
Mhm.
So I think that's probably been the just biggest technical challenge because that also involves so many moving parts. It involves pay, getting everybody's ducks in line across customer, sales, SDR, marketing, and all of the automations that we've built to enable the previous structure have to be shifted and readjusted. And we're doing that within a quarter. Um,
Wow.
yeah.
So that is a lot. It's incredibly hard in any situation to get everyone to talk to each other and everything to work. So I can't imagine what it's like sort of trying to rejig the whole system in a quarter in a global pandemic as a one-person band.
Yes.
I'd be like, sorry, I need a break.
Luckily I have a marketing ops counterpart on marketing who
Mhm.
helps me out a lot.
Mhm. It gets to that point, doesn't it, where it's like, right, this is phenomenal that I've been able to do this all, but let's distribute some of the workload now. We're a mega lean team over here, and it's sort of getting to that stage where we're scaling a little bit, and everyone's getting to the stage where they're like, okay, there's only so many plates I can spin here. Like, let's do it. So yeah, it's always a difficult one, but it means you're doing well. So that's how you've got to look at it, I suppose. Yeah, fingers crossed. So far. So there's a few sort of, structurally questions I sort of have to ask just to sort of base the interview out. So sorry if they sound a bit scripted or structurally. If you want to add anything else, that's absolutely fine.
That's fine.
So there's a few basic ones. So just sort of best practice on forecasting. What is your view on that? I know.
That's
It's
the
such
magic
an
question, isn't it? And that's actually what
open question.
I know. That's right now we're not doing a fantastic job with that,
Mhm.
because we're kind of reporting in silos, where marketing is doing some reporting and sales is doing some of the same reporting but slightly
Mhm.
different. And also because we have a short turnaround time on a lot
Mhm.
of our deals. They're in quarter business. You
Mhm.
can't just look at a pipeline and go, okay, we've got this for 8 months out and
Mhm.
X% of it is going to close. It's a lot more crystal balling and having to
Mhm.
look at marketing leads, and outbound is actually also really effective for us.
Mhm.
The nice thing about outbounding into PR people is that it's literally their job to be gotten a hold of.
Yeah,
So
that's so true, actually.
it's not the hardest to find contact information or the people that you could potentially be talking to at least gain as champions, if not be the final
Mhm.
decision makers. So headcount and uh, I don't know if efficiency is the right word, effectiveness
Mhm.
of that individual head makes a really big difference
Mhm.
in our pipeline. Like we have one SDR who is going to be promoted to a sales rep in January, and her contact to meeting held time is about half that of the rest
Oh,
of her
wow.
colleagues.
Wow.
So, well, how do we replicate that? I don't know if we can because she's
Mhm.
magic, but, trying to math it out. So at the
Mhm.
end of the day, I don't have a very good answer about forecasting. Um,
That's fine. Don't you
and
worry.
it's definitely something that we're trying to work
Mhm.
on, and we're
Mhm.
building a database now outside of HubSpot to be able to report better
Mhm.
on the data and information that we have, because it's got some good reporting capabilities, but there's a lot that we can't do
Mhm.
within our CRM. So
Mhm.
we're building it.
I love that. It's a really difficult one. We've just done a I'm not actually doing a sales pitch, don't worry. We've just done a upsell with one of our clients, and they said the exact same. Loads of sort of CRMs and forecasting report for like the bigger picture or the bigger reps. And they sort of said, we want a forecasting reporting system for our SDRs that they can log into and they can see what they're doing and we can see it as well. And we didn't do that before. And now the tech guys have literally just built it and done it and upselled it. And I was like, what? Like we literally had this conversation. But that's sort of what we're doing here. We're trying to like get views from the community so we can make it better.
Yeah.
And it was
Hmm.
the first time since I've not been here long, so it's the first time since I've worked here that I've seen like a conversation happen and then it actually flow through into fully, being made. And I was like, wow, like this is actually really cool. It made what I'm doing feel really valuable. So yeah, it was really great. But
Nice.
I know what you mean. Forecasting is always a difficult one. It always gets a funny response. Everyone's a bit like, yeah, it's really important, but
But I don't know how to
also,
do it very
yeah,
well.
exactly that, exactly that. So it is a funny one. Um, so how do you drive good relationships between the different teams that you work with?
We are a remote first company. We have been the whole time.
Mhm.
I actually work 100% remote from Raleigh. Most of the company is in New York City. I'm not
Amazing.
moving there, and nor am I being asked to. So we really lean on a lot of public communication, which was really weird at first. Like, you want me to ask this question where I might be wrong in a public space? Like, it made me feel very vulnerable,
Mhm.
um having so much public conversation, but it really helps. I never feel like I'm out of the loop in anything. Sometimes it's a little bit of information overload, and you have to figure out like what is actually for me to consume and
Mm-hmm.
what is just there in case I need it, but I don't actually have to read it,
Uh-huh.
like right now. So doing that, we use Trello to varying degrees of success. Some yes, some no for projects, but like weekly stand-up meetings. Our sales ops meeting is the head of marketing, our COO, who is acting more like a chief revenue officer, so he's just over all of the sales functions.
Mm-hmm.
Our director of sales, me, the marketing operations person, and our CFO, and sometimes our growth marketer. So, like, when we have a sales operations meeting, it's not just sales operations, it's actually pretty much all of our go-to-market functions,
Mm-hmm.
aside from, we split out customer, when we say customer success at our company, it's really like customer support. And we have account management under sales.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all of the revenue generating teams. I'm trying really hard. But we kind of act like a revenue operations team at the
Mm-hmm.
end of the day anyway. So
Mm-hmm.
as long as we're all communicating together.
Exactly. I'm sure it will come in. I mean, it's quite a new, revenue operations in general is a relatively new thing to, the world and to the SaaS world. So I think quite a lot of people have that reluctancy of, like, what does it even mean? And, as you said, you're basically acting like one anyway. It's just
Yeah.
implementing a lot of processes or, people to really do it intensely. So it's a difficult one, but I'm sure you'll get there, as you said, as long as you're all still communicating. Fingers crossed.
Drinking game. How many a shot?
I sent you over a little section. There's just like some quick fire questions from each section. Doesn't matter if you don't have it, I have it in front of me. So which from the sort of following questions would you like me to pick some from? There is best
That
practice
you would
for
ask me, or that I would ask you, or that you would ask yourself and then tell me the answers too?
I'll ask you them, and then just after that, if you have any questions for me, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Let's
It's
take new process adoption. I'm most familiar with.
amazing. So first question for that one is, what is the groundwork required to guarantee a successful adoption of a new process?
It is making sure that we understand why we're making the change. Because a lot of times, if somebody comes to the table with a suggestion, hey, maybe we should do it like this. Well, okay, that sounds great.
Mm-hmm.
What's wrong with how we're doing it? And is that really the best way to accomplish it? And is that the actual problem? Because a lot of times when somebody's identified a problem, that's not actually the root of the problem. Like
Mm-hmm.
yesterday, we had our metrics break, actually, because there wasn't one key piece of information flowing from one system to another system into another system, where it caused this system to not function correctly. And figuring out, okay, well, all I need to do is just put that number here then, and it's going to work. Well, where does that number come from, and why wasn't that number there? Like, that's not the problem. The problem wasn't that that piece of information wasn't there. It's that actually it turns out that in this system over here, there's a requirement to do something that we didn't actually know was required at all.
Mm-hmm.
So figuring that out, going why, and then troubleshooting it, and then was able to work with the account managers to get their documentation and process updated, tell the whole team, hey, this is what we're doing. This is why it's really important that this change is made right now. And this is where you can find the updated information about it. Please emoji here that you have read this and that you commit to 100% doing this from now on. Like, and that's like a tiny change, but it really starts with understanding what is the actual problem and why do we need to make a change.
I think that's a big thing with many things, isn't it? People often don't want to make a change unless they can see the reason it's happening. It's very easy. People sort of get their back up a bit and they're like, oh no, but this is fine. And it's like, no, I'm not trying to implement this to tell you what to do for the sake of it. Like, this is why we've got to make this change. I'm not just.
Or if you make a surface change, like
Mhm.
a change for that initial suggestion,
Mhm.
it might fix that thing, but if the underlying problem is still there, then that's not a positive change, and
Mhm.
you've just made change for change's sake,
Mhm.
and it causes too many changes quickly, and then they start not to believe in the changes that you're making. Okay, well, she's asking us to do this now. Well, it's just going to change next week, so who cares?
Yeah.
So making sure that they're really necessary, impactful changes when you make them.
Mhm. Okay, that was a very good response. That's one of my favorite responses to that question, I think. Um, what part, if any, does tech play in a successful process change and adoption, would you say?
It depends on, I guess, the level of change and what process it is that you're changing. Although tech bleeds into everything that we do now.
Mhm.
So if it's a if it's a messaging change that you want your reps to have, then you would want to have them listen to a successful call where that messaging is so that they can kind of see the various responses that they might be getting to that messaging change. And then you would want to use that same, so we use Gong. You would want to use that same call listening or awareness tool to make sure that that message is actually pulling through
Mhm.
and that your reps are adopting that messaging change. So you can do that, and that's what you should be doing.
Mhm.
So that's one way that you can leverage technology to assist a process change and make sure that it's actually happening. Um, I mean, on the back end, a lot of it is you can change some things without reps even knowing. Like, hey, I've built a workflow that's now going to take this piece of information that you put here and put it 3 other places, so you no longer have to fill that out. So you could also use it in a way to decrease work.
Mhm.
If Zapier went away, I think our team would just die. Um, so uh, those are two examples of a way that tech could help.
Mhm.
Uh, did that
Yeah,
answer
yeah,
your
yeah. That
question?
did. That did. That landed.